Hey YouTube, in this video I want to show you how to update the firmware on your ASUS RT-N12 B1 wireless router. I noticed there was a new firmware update available for this router, and I just wanted to, as I upgrade it, walk you through how to do it. Just be advised that whenever you update firmware or your BIOS or anything like that, there is a little bit of a risk that you could break your hardware, so just be aware of that and understand the risks before you try it yourself. But here's just a how-to on how to do it. So if you go ahead and navigate to the product page on the manufacturer website, which I've got shown here, you can just get there by Googling it. If you go to the support tab, you'll find a downloads tab. And if you select your operating system, in which case I've got Windows 7 64, you'll see all the downloads related to this router here. Firmware, the newest version is shown at the top. It's 374.430, which just came out end of last month. Shown on this page are all the fixes and updates and new features that are included in this new version of the firmware. Be aware as well, if you're going to update from a version that's 2.1.1.1.x, make sure you update to this beta version first before going to this final version. I didn't read that very carefully and kind of got stuck in a loop where the update didn't work, so make sure you do that first. But to download the newest file, hit the global download button. You'll get about a 6 meg zip file that you've got to extract, which I've already done here. This TRX file is the new firmware that you unzip. So we'll just put that aside for a second. So now we're going to log into the router itself and perform the update. Just as a word of caution, make sure that you're not using a wireless connection to actually perform the update, because as you might expect, the wireless will cut in and out as the router's firmware is updated. So if you're using a wireless connection, you'll be essentially sawing off the branch that you're standing on as you update. So make sure you're plugged in with an Ethernet cable into one of the 4 LAN jacks on the back of the router, and do it that way. So open a new tab in your browser, type in 192.168.1.1, which is the address of the router, and you may be prompted with a login page. Just type in your username and password for the router itself, and you'll get to this page. If it doesn't look exactly the same, don't worry. This is what it looks like when you have the new beta firmware, the 370 here. So this procedure should be pretty much the same, even though the user interface may look a little different. Navigate to the administration section, hit firmware upgrade, and here you can browse, choose the new TRX file, and hit upload. But just as a side note, there is a section where you can save all your settings in your router for later, because a firmware upgrade will probably reset them all. So if you want to remember what everything is and not have to bother resetting it manually, this is a pretty handy tool. But for now, go ahead, hit firmware upgrade, click on browse for the new file, and 370 is what we had before, or is what I currently have. And here's the new section, the new firmware. So let me copy that address, paste. We're going to want to select the 430 file and hit upload. And just as a side note, make sure that you're using Internet Explorer, not Google Chrome, because I've done a couple firmware updates on this router in the past, and Chrome didn't seem to work very well. So make sure you're using Internet Explorer. I don't know that it won't work, but I think this is going to give you your best shot. So this takes about 3 minutes. If you want to skip ahead in the video, you can go ahead. But if not, you can just listen to me talk about whatever I feel like talking about. I got this router for about $35 at the local Micro Center, and I've been really happy with it. I started out with another cheap router made by TrendNet, which was another wireless N router, and it started acting very strangely and stopped working after, I want to say, less than 2 or 3 months. So I retired it and got this ASUS model, and it's been much better. The support is much better. The options are you get a lot more options just after poking around a little bit inside of the control panel here. Just you have a lot more control over the network and specific settings, which I don't even necessarily understand, but it's nice to have some of the features that are included on the ASUS software. So I've been pretty impressed on the software side. Hardware's been fine, it's been very reliable. I can't speak to the range too much on this particular model just because I typically use it in close proximity and haven't done much benchmarking on it at all, but uh, I've had good success with it. Doesn't really get very hot or anything. Signal's pretty consistent. I haven't had any speed or throttling issues. I'm sure it's plenty faster than my internet connection, so that hasn't been an issue. But overall, it's been a pretty good unit. I for a while ran third-party firmware called Tomato just to try it out, and that was a pretty cool experience, but it wasn't as reliable as the genuine ASUS firmware, so I ended up switching back. In the process, just as kind of an interesting story, I ended up having to use a special like recovery utility that you can find on the downloads page to recover after some failed update attempt with that third-party software. So while I got it working, I had a little adventure trying to unbrick my router. So thankfully that worked. So I think for the time being, in the foreseeable future, I'm just going to keep using the stock software and just keep it up to date and live with that. Although Tomato did have a lot of different options as far as uh, networking went, but again, I don't even understand the ones fully that are available here, so I didn't see a lot of direct benefit to it, but it was just kind of fun. So if you want more information on third-party firmware, you can go ahead and download or Google that and see what you can learn, but I think your best bet is just to stick with the software that was written specifically for the device. So that's just kind of a side note. So we got a little bit more to wait here, 80%. Go ahead and fast forward or skip ahead if you haven't already. Once this update is complete, you should be spit back out to kind of the main page, and I believe it will ask you to or walk you through a brief setup as if you bought this router brand new and you were just plugging it in, and that's pretty easy, but be prepared to reset some of your settings. So we're almost done here, 98%. So this 370 just kind of grayed out right now in the background should change to 430 when this is done to indicate that it was successful. There we go, 430. Now we've got the newest firmware. Just double check here. So, yep, 430. There we go. This is the newest version of the firmware. So it was a successful update, and you can start changing all your settings, and there you go. But that was it. It's pretty painless. Wasn't that scary? So that's all you got to do to update to the newest firmware version. And there it is. You can just verify by looking up top. Thanks for watching.